Welcome to Core Concept HQ, where big ideas are simplified. Today we're breaking down the book, Ego is the Enemy.
It is great to be here. And this is one of those topics that it feels a little dangerous, honestly.
Dangerous. How so?
We usually in these deep dives, we're looking outward, right? We're analyzing market trends, competitors, historical events. We're looking for the enemy out there.
Right. It's the economy's fault. It's the algorithm. It's my boss. It's always someone else.
Exactly. It's comfortable to point fingers outward.
Yeah.
But today, we are turning the mirror around. We're talking about the enemy inside.
The enemy within.
And I don't mean that in like a cheesy horror movie way.
Right.
I mean the specific part of our own mind that actively sabotages our success, our happiness, and maybe most importantly, our connection to reality.
And that is a perfect setup for the title of the book we're diving into today. Ego is the Enemy. Now, I want to stop right there. Because as soon as you say the word ego, I think half the people listening picture, Freud on a couch with a cigar talking about your mother.
Right, the clinical definition.
So just to be clear, are we talking about that clinical psychoanalyst definition of ego?
No, and that is such a critical point to make right at the top. We are completely clearing the deck on Freud for this conversation.
Oh.
We're not talking about the ego that mediates between the id and the superego. This isn't a therapy session.
Okay, so no cigar smoking shrinks today. Got it.
Not today, no. We are using the word in the way you'd use it in a normal conversation, the casual definition, but with a really sharp edge to it.
So what is that definition then?
In this context, ego is that unhealthy belief in your own importance. It's arrogance. It's that self-centered ambition.
Uh-huh.
I mean, think of it like the petulant child that lives inside all of us, the one that's screaming, I'm better than this, or I'm better than them, or, I deserve to be recognized right this second no matter what I've actually accomplished.
That's the do you know who I am syndrome that you see in viral videos.
Precisely. But it's often more subtle than that. It's not just loud mouths. It's the quiet need to feel special instead of the need to be effective. And the whole argument of the book is that this ego is the enemy because it literally severs your connection to the real world.
How does it do that? What does that severing look like?
Well, think about it. Ego prevents connection. If I secretly believe I'm better than you, I can't really connect with you on a genuine level.
Right. You're judging, not connecting.
And it prevents feedback. If I think I already know everything, I can't possibly learn from you. Why would I listen? And ultimately, it just warps reality. It convinces you that you've already arrived at the destination when, you haven't even packed the car yet.
So you're living in a fantasy world where you're the star of the movie and everyone else is just an extra.
A profoundly lonely place to be. And for our purposes today, a profoundly ineffective one. It makes you bad at your job and, frankly, bad at your life.
Okay, so the way we're going to structure this deep dive, and this follows the book's framework, is around 3 phases of life. I really like this because no matter who you are listening right now, you are in one of these 3 stages.
You can't escape them. It's a universal map. The idea is that at any given moment, you are either aspiring, you're trying to build something, learn something, become something.
So the beginning of the journey.
Or you are succeeding. You've had some success, you've reached a goal, you're on top of the mountain for a moment.
Okay.
Or you are failing. You've hit a wall, you've had a setback, you've been knocked down, things just aren't going your way.
Aspiring, succeeding, or failing. That pretty much covers it all.
It covers the entire human experience.
Yeah.
And the really scary premise here is that ego is the enemy in all 3 of those phases. It's a shapeshifter. When you're aspiring, it stops you from building. When you're succeeding, it corrupts everything you've built.
And when you're failing,
It makes it impossible to recover.
wow. Okay, before we dive into that first phase, aspire, I have to ask. Why now? I mean, people have had egos forever. Is this problem actually getting worse, or are we just more aware of it?
Oh, it is demonstrably, without a doubt, harder to fight today. We are living in a culture that is basically pouring gasoline on the fire of ego 247.
And I'm guessing social media is the main culprit here.
It's the primary accelerant, for sure. I mean, think about it. We are constantly being told to build our personal brand, to curate our lives, to perform for an audience.
Yeah.
You have these little devices in your pocket that are constantly prompting you. What's on your mind? Share your thoughts. They're literally begging for our hot takes, our selfies, our announcements about what we're about to do.
It's okay, validation on tap.
Exactly. And that creates this incredibly dangerous confusion where we mistake the symptoms of success. The likes, the followers, the retweets, the hype for actual tangible success.
We think because people are looking at us, we must be doing something important.
When a lot of the time we're just making noise.
That is a perfect transition into part one, the danger when starting out, the aspire phase. So you've got a goal. You want to write that novel, start a business, get a promotion, learn an instrument. You are at the starting line. What's the very first trap that ego sets for us?
The first trap is so simple and so common. It's the trap of talk versus work.
Talk versus work. Okay, this sounds basic, but I feel like this is going to hit a lot of people pretty hard.
It hits everyone. It's that deep temptation to talk about what you're going to do instead of just doing it. And I'm not just talking about bragging. I mean, the whole announcement culture we live in.
Right. It's the classic Instagram post, a beautifully filtered picture of a laptop and a latte with the caption, "So excited to start writing my novel, #amwriting." But if you could zoom in, the screen is totally blank.
That is the perfect example. And here's the really wild part. There's a biological reason we do this. The research is pretty clear. Talking about your goal actually tricks your brain.
Tricks it how?
When you announce, I'm going to run a marathon, and all your friends comment, wow, you're amazing, that's so cool, you're so disciplined, your brain gets a little hit of dopamine. It registers what they call a social reality.
A social reality.
You get the reward and the validation before you've done any of the work.
Hold on. So you're saying my brain gets a little bit of the feeling of having run the marathon just because I told everyone I was going to?
To a degree, yes. You get the satisfaction of adopting the identity, I am a runner, without any of the pain of the actual training. And this is so dangerous because that tension, that feeling of dissatisfaction of not having achieved it yet, that's your fuel.
That's what gets you out of bed in the morning.
It's the energy you need to do the work.
Yeah.
And talking about it just lets all the steam out of the engine before the train has even started moving.
It's the empty text box problem. Facebook asks, what's on your mind? And our ego just jumps at the chance to say, oh, let me tell you about the amazing things I'm planning. So the advice is just be quiet.
In an ideal world, yes. The book really hammers this point. Silence is strength. The truly confident person doesn't need to broadcast every intention. They just do the work. They let the results do the talking.
Let me play devil's advocate for a second, though. What about accountability? You know, the whole idea of telling people your goals so they can hold you to it. Isn't there value in that?
That's the common wisdom, right?
Yeah.
But the ego has a way of twisting accountability into performance.
Ah.
True accountability is having a coach or a trusted mentor you check in with quietly. Ego-driven accountability is posting your progress for 1,000 strangers online. One is about getting better, the other is about getting applause. Great work, especially when it's just starting out, is fragile. It needs to be protected. It often happens in the dark when no one is watching.
So the first step is basically shut up and work.
Shut up and work. It's that simple.
Okay, so let's say we managed to do that. We're in the aspire phase, we're being quiet, we're ready to put in the hours. The book highlights another huge fork in the road here, and it comes from a pretty legendary military strategist named John Boyd.
Yes, Colonel John Boyd.
Yeah.
An incredible figure. He was this genius, totally unconventional fighter pilot who changed modern warfare, but he never got super famous because he just didn't care about rank or fame.
And he had this speech he would give.
He would give this speech to his young, ambitious officers. He'd pull them aside and say, sooner or later, you're going to come to a fork in the road.
And what was the choice at that fork?
He said, one path leads to being someone. The other path leads to doing something.
Okay, let's unpack that. To be versus to do.
To be is the path of the ego. It's all about status. It's chasing the fancy title, the corner office, the name on the door, the special parking spot. It's all about how you look.
It's the appearance of importance.
Yes. The ego is screaming, I want to be seen as important. I want to be a member of the club.
And to do.
To do is about the work itself, the impact, the utility. It's saying, I want to accomplish this specific mission. I want to solve this problem for our customers. I want to serve this cause. Even if I don't get the credit for it, even if I get passed over for the promotion, even if nobody knows my name.
That is a tough pill to swallow for the ego. I mean, let's be honest, don't we all want a little bit of credit? It feels almost unnatural to say, I don't care if anyone knows I did this great thing.
Oh, it's incredibly hard.
Yeah.
The ego absolutely loathes the idea of being anonymous. But Boyd's point and the book's point is that these two paths often diverge. If your focus is on being, on your image, You start making compromises.
How so?
You start playing politics to protect your position. You avoid taking risks because you don't want to look bad if you fail. You slowly stop growing because you're too busy protecting the status you already have.
Whereas if you focus on doing, you're probably going to upset some people along the way.
You definitely will.
Mm.
But you'll be effective. And the great irony is that the people who really change the world, the ones who consistently choose to do, often end up being someone important anyway, but it was a byproduct, not the goal.
It's like chasing a butterfly. If you run after it, it flies away. But if you build a beautiful garden...
The butterfly comes to you. Exactly.
So if we choose the path of to-do, it requires a very specific mindset. The book calls it the student mindset. But this isn't just, read more books. It feels like something more active than that.
It's an aggressive humility. That's a good way to put it. The student mindset is the absolute, constant refusal to believe you know it all.
And that's especially hard when you're starting out, right? Because you usually have some talent or you've had a little bit of early success.
And you get that early pride. It's so dangerous. Early pride is a killer. It just calcifies your mind. The second you think, I've got this, I'm a natural, you've stopped learning. To truly be a student, you have to admit you're below someone else. You have to admit that the teacher or the book or the mentor knows more than you. You have to submit to the process.
Submit is a very strong word. The ego hates submission. The ego wants to be the teacher, not the student.
That's the conflict right there. And that's why feedback is such a huge trigger for so many people. I mean, think about the last time someone gave you truly critical feedback on something you cared about. What was your first gut reaction?
Oh, totally defensive. My brain instantly starts building a case. Well, you don't understand the context, or I actually did it that way for a reason. Just, walls go up immediately.
That's the ego flaring up to protect its self-image. A true student mindset learns to suppress that initial reaction and instead just say, thank you. Tell me more. This will help me get better. It sees criticism as a tool, not an attack.
Yeah. So how do you actually do that? The book offers this really practical and, I'll be honest, kind of controversial strategy for killing the ego and forcing yourself into that student mindset. It's called the canvas strategy.
I love this concept, but you're right. It is a very hard pill for modern, ambitious people to swallow.
So break it down for us. What is the canvas strategy?
It comes from this ancient Roman idea of the ante-ambullo, which literally means one who clears the path. These were assistants or apprentices who would literally walk in front of their powerful patrons to clear a path for them through the crowded streets of Rome.
Okay.
The canvas strategy is the modern version of that. Find people who are already where you want to be, people who are successful, smart, and ahead of you, and do everything in your power to make them look good. You become the canvas for their masterpiece.
Okay, hold on. The advice for getting ahead is to basically be a suck-up, to be someone's assistant, do all the grunt work, and let them take all the credit. That sounds like a recipe for being taken advantage of.
It sounds like that, doesn't it? And that is exactly what your ego screams. I'm too good to get coffee. I have a degree. I'm a visionary, not an assistant. But you're not looking at it strategically. The book isn't saying be a doormat. It's saying be an apprentice.
What's the strategic value in letting someone else get the credit for my ideas or my work?
You're trading short-term credit for long-term education and, crucially, access. When you clear the path for a mentor or a boss, you get a front-row seat to how they operate. You learn how the deals are made. You meet the people they meet. You slowly make yourself indispensable to them.
You're basically getting a masterclass that you could never pay for.
Precisely. And what happens over time? Because you've been so helpful and because you've learned the ropes from the inside, you naturally get pulled up. You don't need to clear the path anymore because now you're the one walking down it. But you can't get there if your ego refuses to even pick up the broom in the first place.
It's the Karate Kid wax on, wax off thing. It feels like you're just doing chores, but you're secretly building the foundational muscle memory for mastery.
That is the perfect analogy. If Daniel-san's ego had taken over, he would have stormed out after the first hour of waxing the car. He would have completely missed the lesson.
There's one more huge trap in this aspire phase that I want to hit on because it goes against pretty much every motivational poster you've ever seen. We are constantly told, follow your passion. It's in every graduation speech. But this book suggests maybe that's terrible advice.
This might be the most countercultural idea in the whole book.
Yeah.
It draws a very sharp distinction between passion and purpose. And it argues that in the context of ego, passion is actually a huge liability.
That just feels wrong. Isn't passion the fuel that drives you? Don't you need to be passionate to get through the hard times?
You need energy, yes.
Yeah.
You need drive. But passion, as the book defines it, is often just this unbridled, frantic enthusiasm. It's emotional. It's all over the place. It's that initial burst of energy where you declare, I'm going to change the entire world. But you have no plan, no discipline, and no resources. Passion burns incredibly hot, and it burns out incredibly fast.
It's like the sugar rush of ambition.
Yes. And it's almost always about you, how you feel, what you want to express. The book contrasts this with purpose.
And how is purpose different?
Purpose is passion with boundaries. Purpose is rational. Purpose is directed to and for. What am I doing to solve a problem? Who is this work for? Purpose is practical. It's about the very next step in front of you, not the grand vision of being a savior.
So passion is the daydream of standing on the Olympic podium with the gold medal, weeping while the national anthem plays. And purpose is the alarm going off at 4 a.m. to go train in the cold rain when absolutely no one is watching.
That's it, exactly. It's realism over dreams. The ego loves the dream because the dream is perfect and clean. The reality of the day-to-day work is messy and difficult and often boring. If you're relying on passion, the first time you hit a real wall, you just crumble because the feeling is gone. The fun is gone.
But if you have a purpose?
If you're relying on a sense of purpose, a sense of duty or utility, you push through that wall because the mission itself matters more than your mood on any given day.
That is a massive mental shift. It requires you to essentially separate your work from your feelings about the work.
Which is the ultimate anti-ego move. It's not about you. It's about the work.
Okay, so let's say we've done it. We've navigated the aspire phase. We kept our mouths shut, talk versus work. We chose to do over to be. We stayed humble students with the Canvas strategy. We focused on purpose over passion. And guess what? It actually worked.
Congratulations, you've made it.
We got the promotion. We sold the company. We won the award. So now we enter part 2, the trap of success. And you'd think, phew, I made it. I can finally relax. The enemy is defeated.
But the book says this is actually where things get really dangerous. Why is that?
It's so much more dangerous because the ego completely shifts gears. When you were aspiring, your ego was whispering, I really want to be special. Now that you've succeeded, your ego is screaming, I am special. And that belief, that certainty is what makes you lazy, paranoid, and entitled.
And that leads directly to a concept from the legendary basketball coach Pat Riley, which he called the disease of me. The disease of me. It's such a brilliant term. Riley saw this happen over and over with his championship-winning Lakers teams in the 80s. They'd win the title, they'd be on top of the world, and then, the very next season, everything would start to fall apart.
But why? They were the same players, they still had the talent.
But their mindset had changed. They stopped thinking and playing like a team. Individual players started worrying more about their personal stats. They started bickering about who was getting the bigger shoe endorsement deals. They obsessed over whether the media was giving them enough credit compared to their teammates.
So the internal story shifted from, we won the championship, to, I am the reason we won the championship.
Exactly. It's that obsession with getting what's mine. The ego starts to literally cannibalize the team from the inside out. And you see this in the business world all the time. A project succeeds, and instead of celebrating, people are in the background worrying about whether their name was mentioned first in the congratulatory email.
Right. Instead of focusing on the next challenge or on the customer, they're focused on their own status within the group.
They stop doing the very things that made them successful in the first place. Collaboration, sacrifice, humility, and start focusing on protecting their newfound status. The disease of me is the beginning of the end.
And this seems to tie into this broader sense of entitlement and maybe even more control. I think we've all seen a manager or a boss who, after some success, starts to micromanage everything because they think they're the only genius in the room.
Oh, that's the classic control freak trap. Success can trigger this deep-seated paranoia. You think, I built this castle, so now I have to personally inspect every single brick every day. You stop trusting your team. You refuse to delegate.
Why? What's the fear?
Because your ego is telling you that you and you alone are the source of all the success. So you become terrified that someone else might mess it up, or even worse, that someone else might do it better and steal your thunder.
That sounds exhausting and incredibly isolating.
It is profoundly isolating. The book uses the tragic and extreme example of Howard Hughes. Here was a man who had literally everything. He was a brilliant inventor, had immense wealth, set aviation records, was a Hollywood mogul. But his ego, his obsessive need for absolute control and his paranoia eventually drove him into a dark hotel room where he just sat naked watching the same movies over and over, terrified of germs and other people.
He died completely alone, cut off from the world.
He did. He couldn't trust anyone. He couldn't let go of control. Now, that's the extreme end of the spectrum, of course, but the pattern is common. Success can cut you off from reality if you let it. You stop hearing the word no. You stop getting honest feedback because everyone around you is either afraid of you or is just trying to please you.
And that leads to another psychological trap our ego sets for us when we win, which the book calls the narrative fallacy. I love this term. What does it mean?
This is a huge one. When we look back on our success, our ego desperately wants to write a clean, simple Hollywood script about it. It wants the story to be, I had a brilliant vision. I executed my vision flawlessly. I succeeded because I am a genius.
I knew it would work all along.
I knew it all along. But if you were to actually look at the raw, unedited footage of your own life, you know that's a lie.
Yeah.
You didn't know. You were scared. You had massive doubts. You got lucky breaks you didn't deserve. People helped you when you didn't ask. There were a dozen moments where the whole thing almost fell apart.
But the ego is a great film editor. It just cuts out all the messy scenes, all the moments of luck or help from others.
It creates a personal mythology.
Yeah.
And the danger is, if you start to believe your own myth, you stop doing the gritty, hard work that got you there in the first place.
Yeah.
You start to think success is your destiny rather than the result of constant effort and maintenance. You think, I just have the Midas touch.
And that's usually the exact moment right before you touch something and it turns to dust.
Precisely. You start to confuse the symptoms of success, the money, the fame, the nice office, with the cause of success. But those are just trailing indicators. The cause was the late nights, the humility, the focus on the work.
So if success naturally makes us delusional, how do we fight it? How do we stay grounded? The book says you have to find a way to remain a student even when you're at the top.
Yes, you have to constantly fight against the ego ceiling. There's this beautiful metaphor the book uses. As the island of your knowledge grows, so does the shoreline of your ignorance.
Ooh, I like that. Unpack that for me.
Okay, imagine all your knowledge is a small island in the middle of a vast, infinite ocean of everything you don't know. As you learn more, your island gets bigger, right?
Yeah.
But as the circumference of that island grows, the amount of shoreline, the part of you that is directly touching the unknown, also gets longer.
So the more you know, the more you should become aware of how much you don't know.
Exactly. A true master, a real expert, is deeply humble because they can see the vastness of that ocean. The ego wants to hide that shoreline. The ego wants to pretend the island is the entire world. To stay successful, you have to force yourself to go look at the ocean. Pick up a book on a topic you know nothing about. Put yourself in rooms where you are guaranteed to be the dumbest person there.
Which is so uncomfortable when you're used to being the CEO or the senior expert in the room.
It's deeply uncomfortable. But that discomfort is the feeling of growth. If you are always the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. You're just stagnating.
There's another danger that comes with success, and that's the hunger for more. You know, you make $1 million, now you want 10. You get famous, now you want to be a legend. It just never seems to stop. The book introduces a Greek concept to help fight this, euthymia.
Euthymia. Such a great word. It roughly translates to tranquility, but the definition the book uses is more specific. It's believing in yourself and trusting that you are on the right path and not being in doubt by following the myriad footpaths of those wandering in every direction.
So in today's terms, stay in your own lane.
Stay in your own damn lane. It's about stopping the constant comparison of your insides to everyone else's outsides.
This is so incredibly hard now with social media. You could be a very successful writer, feeling good about your work, but then you see a tech founder who just sold their company for $1 billion, and in that instant, you feel like a total failure.
That is the trap. You're running a completely different race. If your goal is to write deep, meaningful books that will last, why are you jealous of the guy who makes viral prank videos on TikTok? His scorecard has nothing to do with yours.
But the ego just sees the big numbers and it wants them.
The ego just wants more. It doesn't care about better or meaningful or aligned with my values. It just wants to win every single game, even the games you never intended to play. Euthymia is the discipline to say, no, this is what is important to me, this is my path, and I am content with this.
It really sounds a lot like sobriety.
That is the exact word the book uses. Sobriety. And not just sobriety from drugs or alcohol, but sobriety from the intoxication of fame, power, and constant validation. Success is a drug. It alters your perception of reality. You have to actively work to sober up and keep your balance.
Okay, so we have to stay sober, stay in our lane, and keep learning. But Let's be real. Life happens. Gravity exists. Markets crash. People get fired. We all make mistakes. And that brings us to part 3, the opportunity in failure.
The inevitable fall.
Right. Everyone fails. It's a mathematical certainty. You can't win forever. But the book makes the case that ego is what makes failure so much more painful and destructive than it has to be.
Ego takes every failure personally. That's the absolute core of the problem. If you launch a new product and it flops, objectively that's just data. It's a situational failure. But the ego internalizes it and says, no, I am a failure.
Or it goes in the other direction and screams, this is unfair, the world is rigged against me.
Exactly. Narcissistic injury.
Mm-hmm.
The ego is enraged. How dare the market not recognize my genius? Don't they know who I am? And this leads straight to denial. The ego refuses to admit the mistake, so it doubles down.
We see this with scandals all the time. It's almost never the initial mistake that destroys someone's career. It's the cover-up. It's the stubborn refusal to just say, I messed up, I'm sorry.
That's it. If you can silence your ego, you can look at the failure objectively. You can say, okay, that didn't work. Why? What can I learn from this? How do I fix it? You become a mechanic of your own life instead of a victim of it.
If finding a way forward through that failure brings us to what might be one of the most powerful concepts in the entire book. It comes from the author Robert Greene, and it's the distinction between dead time and alive time.
This is a truly life-changing framework. The idea is that whenever you hit a major setback, you get fired, a relationship ends, you're stuck in a dead-end job, maybe you're even literally in prison, you are faced with a binary choice.
That's that choice.
You can choose for this period to be dead time, or you can choose for it to be alive time. Dead time is when you're just sitting around, waiting. It's feeling sorry for yourself. It's blaming other people. It's numbing yourself with distractions, just waiting for the clock to run out so something or someone can come save you.
It's being passive. It's letting life just happen to you.
Yes, alive time is the complete opposite. Alive time is when you say, okay, I don't control the overall situation. I can't magically get my job back today, but I control what I do with my time right now. It's using that setback as a mandatory sabbatical. Use the time to read every book you can, to learn a new skill, to get in the best physical shape of your life, to write, to plan.
The example of Malcolm X is used in the book here is just incredibly powerful.
It's the ultimate example of a lifetime. Malcolm Little gets sent to prison. By any rational measure, his life is over. He's a criminal. He's locked away. That could easily have been a decade of dead time. He could have just sat there and counted the days.
But he didn't.
No. He decided to turn the prison into his own personal university. He famously read the dictionary from cover to cover. He studied history, religion, philosophy. He completely remade his mind. When he walked out of that prison, he wasn't Malcolm Little anymore. He was Malcolm X. He used the failure, the confinement, as a cocoon for a total metamorphosis.
And we all have those moments, even small ones. You're stuck in a traffic jam. Is that dead time? You're fuming, honking, raising your blood pressure. Or is it alive time? You're listening to an audiobook, you're thinking through a tough problem, you're practicing patience.
Exactly. You get laid off. Do you spend a month on the couch in your pajamas watching TV? That's dead time. Or do you use that month to learn a new coding language, network like crazy, and totally revamp your resume? That's alive time.
The choice is always yours. And I guess the ego prefers dead time because it loves to wallow in self-pity.
Ego loves to be the victim. Look how unfair this is to me. Alive time requires humility and work, even when there's no immediate applause.
Dealing with failure also forces us to rethink how we keep score because society's scoreboard is brutal and simple. It just asks, did you win? Are you rich? Are you famous? And if you fail, society's scoreboard says, you are a loser.
Correct. And the ego is completely obsessed with that external scoreboard. It needs that validation. But the book argues that to be resilient, you have to switch to an internal scorecard.
What does an internal scorecard look like? What does it measure?
The internal scorecard asks totally different questions. It asks, did I do my absolute best? Did I stick to my principles? Did I act with integrity? Did I prepare as hard as I possibly could?
So you could lose the game on the external scoreboard, but still get a win on your internal one.
Absolutely. The book uses the example of Bill Walsh, the legendary football coach. He created what he called a standard of performance. He didn't obsess over winning the Super Bowl. He obsessed over whether the players tucked their shirts in correctly, whether they ran their routes with perfect precision, whether they showed up to meetings on time.
He focused on the inputs he could control, not the final outcome.
Exactly. You might write the best novel of your life, and it gets a bad review and doesn't sell. Society says you failed. But if your self-worth is tied to the effort and the quality of the work, the internal scorecard, you're still okay. You're not crushed. You can get up and write the next day.
That's a great real-world example. You pitch a huge project at work, you prepare for weeks, you deliver a flawless presentation, and the boss says no because of budget cuts that have nothing to do with you.
Right.
The ego says, I'm a failure. I'm worthless. The internal scorecard says, I absolutely nailed that presentation. The result was out of my control.
That is the fundamental difference between resilience and despair.
Huh.
If your self-worth is tied to things you can't control, like other people's opinions or decisions, you are just setting yourself up for a life of misery.
Sometimes, though, the failure is bigger than that. It's not just a rejected pitch, it's a total collapse. The book calls these Fight Club moments.
Hitting rock bottom.
Yeah. Why is hitting rock bottom, as awful as it sounds, sometimes a good thing for the ego?
Because rock bottom is a solid foundation.
Yeah.
You can't fall any further. When everything is stripped away from you, your title, your money, your reputation, the ego is just shattered. It has nothing left to cling to. And that is incredibly painful, but it's also a hard reset.
It forces you to finally face the truth.
Yes. There's no more pretending. There's no more posturing. You have to look at who you really are without all the external stuff. And from that place of raw honesty, you can finally build something real and durable.
Yeah.
It also forces you to stop digging the hole.
The sunk cost fallacy is a huge part of why people keep digging, right? Well, I've already spent 5 years on this failing business. I can't quit now.
That is pure ego. The ego cannot bear to admit a loss, so it just keeps throwing good money and good time after bad. Hitting rock bottom is often the universe's way of taking the shovel out of your hands. It saves you from wasting the rest of your life on a lost cause.
Okay, last point in the failure section. There's a big warning about how we react to the people who beat us or the critics who pile on. The natural temptation is to hate them, to plot your revenge.
Hate is a toxin. It's maybe the most counterproductive emotion you can have when you're trying to recover from failure. Hating your enemies, obsessing over critics, trying to get even. It does nothing but distract you from your own work and your own recovery.
The book brings up the Streisand effect.
It's a perfect example. For those who don't know, Barbra Streisand tried to sue a photographer to have a picture of her home removed from a public database of California coastline photos. Before she filed the lawsuit, literally almost no one had seen the picture. I think the record showed it had been downloaded like 6 times.
And after the lawsuit,
Her outrage drew so much attention to it that millions of people saw it. Her ego, her desire to control the narrative and crush this perceived enemy made the problem infinitely worse.
so hate just gives your enemies power over you.
It lets them live rent-free in your head. The most powerful and most difficult response to failure and criticism is indifference. Or even better, love. Just move on. Focus on your own path. The old saying is true. Living well is the best revenge. But you can't live well if you're consumed with plotting revenge.
So we've really come full circle. Whether we are aspiring, succeeding, or failing, the ego is right there every step of the way, waiting to trip us up.
It really is. And it's not a dragon you can just slay one time and then you're done with it forever.
The book uses the analogy that it's like dust.
That's the one I love. It's perfect.
Mhm.
You can't say, well, I swept the floor last Tuesday, so it should be clean forever. Dust accumulates every single day. Ego accumulates every single day. You have to be willing to sweep the floor every single morning.
So you have to do that daily check-in. You have
Yep.
to ask yourself, where am I right now? Am I aspiring? Okay, then my job is to be humble, shut up, and do the work. Am I succeeding? Okay, my job is to be gracious, stay a student, and not believe my own hype. Am I failing? Okay, my job is to be resilient, find the alive time, and not take it personally.
That is the entire practice right there. It's a continuous daily loop. And the ultimate goal isn't just about professional success. The real goal is to be a more balanced, grounded, and ultimately happier person. A person who isn't being constantly jerked around by their own insecurities and impulses.
That feels like a really great place to wrap things up. We've covered a ton of ground today, from the danger of the empty text box and the choice between to be and to do, all the way to the disease of me, and finally, the incredible power of a lifetime.
It's a lot to take in. But there's one thing to take away from all this. It's that your ego is not your friend. It's not the source of your confidence. It's the voice that whispers excuses to keep you from doing the hard work that actually matters.
And just realizing that, just being able to identify that voice is the first huge step to defeating it.
Absolutely. That's the whole ball game.
Thanks for listening, and remember, this is Core Concept HQ, where we simplify powerful ideas to help you live smarter. See you in the next summary.